most of my listeners are living in that construction world. What can they pull out of this mega project controls, mega projects, capital project management that they can take a nugget away for themselves on what they could do better? Because again, they are going to go look, hey, who's the Contruent for the little guy, for the smaller project. I don't want to call it little. This isn't amazing. We call like million, 50, 60, 70, 80, $100 million project is like the little project. We're talking hundreds of millions, billions now. So what are some of the things those people can take away?
I think as we finish out our SaaS capabilities, right? So one of the big lifts when M33 Growth, the private equity invested in Eris Prism and now rebranded Contruent, is giving all customers an opportunity to use the solution, right? So it's not a big, heavy lift, right? So we find that when a project hits a certain amount, the importance of having that project controls and cost engineering, the stakes are raised, right? And that's why, on some of the biggest projects in the world, that you see the rigor behind project controls. That's not to say that can't be transplanted into a vertical construction project that's 80 million, right? There's not saying we can't do that. So I think there's a lot of great lessons that we see and we build into our best practices that anyone can use. But in my history, when the stakes are so high and the schedule and the cost is so important, a 1% slip is a huge number. You've got to have a back-end system that's tying not only what's happening on the project on a daily basis, but also tying back to the ERP from a billing perspective, right? So it doesn't really matter how big the project is. I think there's techniques in project controls that everybody can use. Interesting enough, I'll give you a real world example. In the last 3 months, I've been on more calls with general contractors that are in the US that are building robust project controls units. It's amazing. And in fact, I was working with one of my business development reps, and he's like, "Hey, Andy, we'd like you to come on this call. It's with a GC." And remember, we don't really spend a lot of time with the GCs. And the first question I asked this group was, why are you now like really starting to evangelize and invest in project controls? And they said, our projects are more complex than ever before, right? And they were expanding into an area that they've never done before, right? And to me, it was perfect. So Jeff, to your point, like I said, and we were happy to say, hey, here's our best practices. As you guys build out your processes to go, professionalize your project controls organization, let us be part of that journey. So listen, I think it's coming. I mean, just think about how important and how complex projects are becoming anywhere in the world.